Okay, so we're going to talk about variables, understanding variables. But before I get started here, I just want to show you a couple of things. If you go up to Windows and you notice up in your toolbar up at top, you can choose your properties panels, your timeline, your tools, anything that you want to use. In order to open up your ActionScript panel, you have to select it. And I'm also going to select the output panel too. So you can open up anything in this panel up at the top in the Windows panel. Now I'm probably pretty familiar with this from your previous class. Now you'll notice that I have a large font. So if you go up to Animate and you select Preferences, this might be pretty important to some of you people because I need to have my font larger because I have some vision problems. But I'm also using a large computer, so when I type really small, I can hardly see it. So you can select right here where it says Code Editor. You can choose your font. I happen to like Arial, and I select the 28, and that just works well for me, especially while I'm teaching this class so that you can see it. So then you just hit OK. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about variables. Variables are the building blocks of many programs, and you might already be familiar with programming languages that use variable. So this includes ActionScript 3. So knowing what variables are and how to create and modify them is really essential for building any application. So I'm first going to create a variable by typing the word var. I'm just going to type it. This is going to be lowercase. Okay, it should all be lowercase. And if I typed it correctly, then it's going to turn purple. And then I just make a space, and you'll notice that it turns purple. So in Animate, reserved keywords would turn purple when you type them. So after var, I'm going to make a space, is what I did. And then I'm going to type the name of the variable. So for this example, I'm going to type my and then name with a capital N, no spaces. So here I'm going to write my, and I'm N with a capital M. And make sure that you don't have any spaces. So when you're naming a variable, you have to follow some special rules. The first rule is do not start with a number. You can use numbers as long as it doesn't start with a number. Don't use any spaces and don't use any special characters. So after you type the name of the variable, you can type a colon to declare the variable data type. So we're going to go ahead and put in a column. And then I'm going to make another space. So you're going to think of a variable as kind of like a noun. So a noun could be a person, a place, thing, or an idea. When I tell the data type of a variable, it's the same thing as saying the type of a noun. It's like putting in a category. So one category of a variable is called string, which can hold text. So your name would be text. So I'm going to put my name in. You can put that in a string type variable. So I'm using a capital S, and that should be all blue. So when you're declaring a data type, just every single data type is going to start with a capital letter. There are a few exceptions, like 3 or 4, that are going to start with lowercase. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write string. Remember, it's going to be a capital S, S-T-R-I-N-G, which is going to hold my text data type. Then I want to set a value. I type a space, and you'll notice that it turns blue. Equals and then space. So I'm going to put in an equal sign, and then I'm going to put in another space. Then I'm going to type open and close quotes. These are going to turn green. Again, this comes from your Animate ActionScript preferences. You can actually change this if you want, but I'm just going to keep it as it is, and then a semicolon. So I'm going to go ahead and put in some quotes, and then I'm going to place in a semicolon. Now you may be asking, why am I doing this? Why am I not putting the text in right in here while I'm doing it? That's because I just don't want to forget to put a pair in. You have to put the pair in. So I'm going to move into right in between it, and I'm going to type my name, Mary. So the semicolon here at the end ends, it's kind of like the ending, like in a sentence. It ends a statement. So you have to make sure that you put that in. So now I want to test what I have here. If I want to see if my code is working properly, you can use a trace statement. So I'm just going to select right here, and I'm going to go down to the next line. A trace statement makes a message appear in the output window. It is used for testing your code. So we're going to type the word trace, and it's going to be all lowercase. So go ahead and write trace if you're following along with me. Make sure that it's all lowercase, and then again you're going to make a space, and you notice that it turns blue. Type some parentheses. You're always going to need an opening, closing parentheses, curly brackets, etc. while you're working in this program. So we're going to do some parentheses. Now I just have to find them on my computer. Okay, so we have that in there. And then I'm going to put in a, I'm going to type my name first, okay? So I'm going to put it right in here. Actually, I'm going to put my name in. I'm going to type the text, my name, just as you have up on the top here. Oops, make sure you spelled this right. And then I'm going to enter, just like I did on the top, okay? So I want to go ahead and test my movie and see what happens in my output window. So my output window is down here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go up to the top, and I'm going to go window, and I'm going to test. Control test. And when you use so many programs, you don't remember which one you're doing sometimes. And let's just take a look in the output window, and you see right here my name is popping up. So this is correct. So we're going to go ahead and move on into this program. I'm going to stop here with variables. Okay, so now we're going to go back to making sure that you have your action panel open up. We're going to talk about functions. So functions are the secondary building blocks in programming. Functions allow you to store related tasks in named groups, so they can be reused in the most efficient way possible. So in ActionScript, functions are actions. They're similar to verbs in that they do things. A function takes a group of tasks and names them. They usually have an active name. So one of the functions you're probably familiar with, especially in your last class, is stop. So let's just go ahead and write stop. And then we're going to put in the parentheses. And then we're going to end our stop. Stop is a built-in function. Remember, it's blue, and that stops the timeline. So stop is an action word. So another function you're probably familiar with is go to and play. So we're going to write go to. I feel you're probably familiar with this from your last class. Again, we're going to put in our parentheses, and we're going to end it. It looks similar to stop in that it is blue phrase and some parentheses and a semicolon, except for in the parentheses you place in which frame you want to go to. So right in here I'm going to place in 3. So I'm telling my file that I want to go to and play related tasks. It takes the playhead, moves it to a particular frame. In this case it's going to be 3, and it plays from there. Okay, so there is a difference between running a function and creating a function. So running a function is simply type in the function name in parentheses. So creating the function is a little bit more complicated. To create a function and animate, type the word function. Remember, it should be all lowercase, and it should be blue after you type it, showing that is a keyword reserved for animate. Type a space and then type the name of the function. So we'll go ahead and we're going to put in function. And once I make the space, it turns actually purple. So let's say I wanted to create a function that's called add numbers. So you added numbers. So I call this add numbers. Usually a function name starts with some type of action word. So here my action word is add. So it describes what the function does. I also like to write each new word and start it with a capital letter. This is useful because you can't use spaces in function names. So after the name of the function, type some in the parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and write add, and remember I'm going to make a capital just so that I can see that this is numbers after the word add. I'm going to put in my, and then I'm going to put in my, there after the parentheses you specify what type of data the function will return. So we type a colon, which I already did, and then we're going to type void. This data type starts with a lowercase letter. This is one of the few data types that does start with a lowercase letter. So go to the next line and type an open curly brace. So we're going to go down to the next line and we're going to put in an open curly brace. Make sure you put it down to the next line. And then I'm going to put in a closed curly brace. Okay, so let's just place in a simple trace statement here. So I'll type trace. Remember, that puts a message in the output window. So place in a parentheses and a semicolon. In the parentheses, I'm going to use quotes. I'm not going to use quotes. I'm going to type in 1 plus 2. So I'm going to put in trace. Remember, it's just going to show up in the output window. And then I'm going to put in 1 plus 2, and then the semicolon. So if we were going to test a movie, nothing would happen at this point because there's a difference between declaring a function and running a function. This block's the code that I have created here is simply declaring a function. It says that it exists and you can run it when you want. In order to run the function, you have to go below the curly brackets and type in the name of the function. So the function I want to use is add numbers and some parentheses and a semicolon. So I'm going to go ahead and underneath this, I'm going to write add numbers. Notice that it kind of looks like the stop function. It has the command and then the parentheses and a semicolon, but it's not blue, and that's because it is a custom function that we just created. So I'm going to test the movie, and you can see 3 in the output window. Let's just go ahead and test it. And you can see in the output window 3 so that you know that we did this correctly. Because to make a function more reusable, you have to add something called parameters. So when you add numbers, you're going to put the numbers that you want to add inside the function. So every time you run the add numbers function, you can use different numbers, and basically you can have the function do something unique each time. So I'm going to place my cursor inside the parentheses at the top of my code right after the open parentheses and add numbers. I'm going to type in num1. This is the first parameter, and I'm going to declare its data type. And then I'm going to put in a colon, and I'm going to write the word number with the capital N. So we go ahead and do that. Just follow along with me. If you're doing this yourself, put num1, and then I'm going to write number, and then a column. And you'll notice that it turns blue. So put in the column and a space, and then we're going to write num2, just like you did for num1. I'm kind of lazy, so I'm just going to copy and paste it. And I'm just going to write 2. To make sure that you did everything correctly, you have to go through and check your code, double check, make sure you spelled everything correctly. If you don't spell things right, I'm going to put a little space here, just so that I can see the two separate. You don't really have to. And then I'm going to go down where it says trace. So I have num1 and num2. Now I'm going to replace these numbers inside of the function with num1 and num2. So you're going to go down here and we're going to put the same thing in. We're going to write num1 plus num. Make sure you put a space. There's a space here too. Num2. So num1 plus num2. You have to be very careful when you're writing your code. So we have num1 plus num2. So now I'm going to go down and I'm going to, instead of where it says you don't have anything in here, I'm going to put in the numbers that I want to add. I'm going to put in the value of these. Now these numbers don't have any values yet. So they won't have any values until we run the function and tell Animate which values those should be. So in the number function, right after the open parentheses, put in the first number that you want and the second number. So you can put in any numbers that you want in here. I'm just going to go ahead and put in 5 and 10, the first number and the second number. And let me just see what this looks like. Make sure again that you check your code completely. Let's just test this. On the output it says it's 15, so I did this correctly. Now what if I want to do a bunch of numbers? I can actually copy and paste this. And just keep going down. Make it a string. And you can change them. Put anything you want in there. Doesn't really matter what you put in there. We're just going to test it and see. So let's just test this and see what this looks like. Okay, there's all our numbers all the way straight down here. So I'm going to stop this movie now and we're going to continue on with this section.